Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and in this video we're going to be talking about superheroes, because they're cool. There aren't rules, there aren't expectations when you draw superheroes, but there are cliches to work with. And generally, when you're going into an area of design, whether it be a certain period in history or a genre, there are cliches that people identify with that genre. So, for example, if you're going to do something sci-fi, there are certain things people see and hear and stuff that they associate with sci-fi. So with superheroes, it's the capes, it's the strong stances, it's the masks, this cliche, the suits, that skin tight, all that stuff, the athletic builds. These are the cliches that people associate with superheroes. So we don't have to stick to these cliches, and some of our favorite superheroes don't stick to these cliches, or only a few of them. But it's good to work in familiarities, at least when you're learning. So when you want to start drawing superheroes and kind of muck around a bit with that, or things like that, it's just kind of, it's safe to start with what is known. Now, I liked the idea of just doing a random little superhero drawing, video, not so much tutorial, but, just to make some observations and stuff. But when we can do these about certain things, so if you have any requests, list them down below, and that can be things like sci-fi or medieval or villains or I don't know, people in giant chicken suits, whatever, So I'd like you guys to think of this as your channel, because I want to make videos that you guys would be interested in participating in or seeing or learning from if I have something relevant to say. Anyways, let's stop crapping on and start drawing stuff. With superheroes, one of the main things that is really iconic regarding superheroes is the idea of poses. Superheroes pose. And if you ever read a comic book or a graphic novel or whatever where there are superheroes, you see all the time strong poses. Things like that. Oops, ignore his little willy there. Things like that. There you go. These are off to a good start. So, we can convey in stick figures, strong poses, and we can turn that into real poses. So let's take these two crappy poses that we've done here and start doing construction lines to create an actual pose. So if we have the shape of the head here. Now, remember, if you haven't seen my video on creating construction lines for the male and female bodies, check that out now. It's just how I do things. Okay, so we're gonna work in the torso shape here, the hips. Okay, now we work the meat on the bone. Now, superheroes don't always have to be muscly, and I'm working with more of an athletic build for this example. There is something somewhat satisfying about drawing super, tough dudes, in the sense that, I like playing the Barbarian in Diablo 3 and Diablo 2, and I think it has something to do with, when you're a kid, the type of kids that always drew superheroes are the type of kids that wanted to be superheroes. So the type of kid that would always draw the big tough superhero or the fast superhero, it's because they wanted to be the tough superhero, the fast superhero. And I've always wanted to be the big tough guy, and some people want to be Spider-Man. I always liked the Hulk, and I like seeing really well drawn pictures of the Hulk. He just looks so bloody cool. And the Avengers, oh, come on. So there you go. So you got your crappy stick pose, and that's our construction line base. And let's take this other pose and let's make this a female. So we've got our head facing this way. Oops. Now I want to later do a tutorial on anatomy. We won't have time in this video. I just want to go through rough sort of, you know, pose ideas and costume approach. Okay. How am I going to do this? Let's just have our legs straight down like that. Okay, now we put the meat on the bones, as I like to call it. Boobies. Do you know, I reckon in every single video I ever do where I have to draw boobs, while you guys watch my face on the webcam, I'm gonna have a giggle about it. I'm just too immature to not. You know, I remember implementing a few of the things from the drawing female construction videos. You know, don't be afraid of shape. Make the thighs and the bum nice and curvy. Okay. So we've got our poses here of our superheroes. Now these could be poses of non-superheroes, but look at them. They're a bit too extreme to essentially be anything other than extreme characters like superheroes or you know, bounty hunters or whatever. So next step, we're going to start doing our line work and applying some of the things from some of the lessons of the channel. Oops. Let's zoom in to about 250. Alright, now again, this is going to be fairly rough. I just want to do some grey line work. Now, with a superhero guy, you got to kind of accentuate sometimes, if they're the kind of superhero, whatever. Let's do what you want. But one of the cliche things is that the half smile, you know, and the eyebrow raise. Doing that, you know, look into the horizon thing. Oops, no, that's a bit too cocky. Okay. Now let's make the chin nice and solid. Again, the cliche is... essentially, the cliche is Superman. Because this is when, you know, comics first began, and I hope I don't get, like, super nerds, like, to, like, jump on my channel and be like,
Superman wasn't the first one. In 1822, there was this...
and I was like, oh, shut up. I don't know logistics of this stuff. Okay, the head's a bit too far back. I'm going to bring it forward. Again, that's what the use of the construction line system is, to see the faults as they arise. Okay, now we're just doing our refining lines on the meat, on the bone. Ugh. Okay, so we've got our cliche pose happening here. We'll just kind of rough in the rest of the body here. And now for the female. Hello. Okay. Getting there. So what are your guys' favorite superheroes? I think I tend to like anti-heroes. Wolverine is probably my all-time favorite. I know I like the Hulk and looking at pictures of the Hulk, but Wolverine as a character and aesthetically, you just see really cool pictures of Wolverine. Oops, no, that looks terrible. How do I draw a hair? What do I do for a hair? Just have it go straight back. I got into the Witchblade series, as I mentioned in the drawing female proportions and construction video. And it's easy to get into because they draw very well drawn women. They draw really... The art of Top Cow is just fantastic. Really top tier stuff. So this video is starting to feel a little bit like a anatomy video. And I don't want it... Sorry, not anatomy, construction line and drawing women and men video, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I have videos for that. But what I want to get into is approaches for things like costumes, because they're cool. Now, I'm not the best at this sort of stuff, but it's fun to share how I approach it and see how others approach it. So let me know if you guys have drawings of this sort of thing as well, because I'd like to see how you go about it. Okay. So we have our two poses here. We have our male and our female superhero. Now, our male is actually fairly scrawny for a superhero, but I just didn't want to over-accentuate anything for the sake of this video. I just want to get to keep a middle ground so that when we talk about costumey stuff, we can kind of have the middle ground covered. Oops. Sorry, I'm just managing my timeline. Okay, now I'm going to turn those lines black for the sake of messing around with the costume stuff in this video. So, going through the frames, we have our initial crappy poses. Then we have our blocking, our initial construction lines. And we have our line overlay. So the next thing, once you design your character as a superhero or whatever, the costume is how people recognize the superhero. So instantly when people see, you know, I mean, there are so many different versions of the Batman logo, you know, whether it be that or, you know, that one, even though they're terrible, you know, and then there's Spider-Man, you know, whatever versions of these logos, they're recognizable. And it's important to try and make the character that you're working on fairly iconic, if you can. Even though it's all just for fun. And again, this is just working to cliches. Okay, so Colors that are iconic. These are the cliches. There's red. There's, most cliches, are red, blue, green, gold, and how do I convey white? Oops. There you go, that's white. Yeah, see what I did there? It's wrapped around to the nothingness. Cool. So they're cliches, and obviously you can work with anything in between, you know, but, oh, and black, sorry. Hello. Cool, so there are superly cliche color thingies. That's our color palette. So before we get into colors, it's a cool kind of approach, I think, to divide the body. So there are lots of different ways to divide. I'll make a few sort of rough suggestions. So, you know, you've got the neck, you've got the waist, you've got gloves and boots, underpants. So that's one way to do it. One or, you know, and you can use one or more of those. And generally, there's a logo. So instantly, just with those simple lines, here's a superhero. Same with her. So we give her a logo, give her a neck. We could maybe divide the arms like this. We could divide the torso like this. Let's do another suggestion. We could have the logo take up more space on the male torso. Have it come up to the neck and give him some eye covers, like a mask thing. We could take up the shoulders, into the waist, and then back out. And then just the gloves, small gloves. So isn't it funny how quickly the identity of the character changes? Let's do the female one. Let's give her a low cut V. Let's divide that up. Oops. So you can already see, just with those two examples, let's give the First Lady some goggles too, because I think they make a bit of a difference. And again, there are so many ways of doing the masks. But as you can see, with just those two very quick examples, how much just the lines, how much of a difference just those lines can make. So we're just going to pick one of these examples, or make a new one. Why not? So let's make a new one. So let's give this guy a V down there. Let's cut off the just underneath the shoulders. Oops. And give him longer gloves. Oops. And let's make the V part of the costume. And let's give him the traditional superhero underpants. Even though they look hideous whenever they're used, they're cliche, so why not? Let's give him a mask that goes up and takes up all of his face from where it's placed. And she can have a low cut V. Actually, let's give her more of a corset type costume. And she can have a mask as well, but just a normal one. Okay, so now that we've got our rough line working, we muck around with colors. So let's place, let's make her more dark colored and make him more light colored. So if we go very, very, very light desaturated blue, instead of just doing straight off white. And again, this is just going to be rough colors because this is all just an example. This is just essentially, this video isn't so much a tutorial. It's more of a muck around. Muck arounds are fun. They don't always have to be so structured and blah, blah, blah. We can just chat about superheroes. So let's make his torso area, this upper part. I'm just scribbling it in. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. So that's that. His underpants. It's good to kind of color coordinate, so kind of go from one to the other. And you only want to have around 2 to 3 colors maximum. And you don't want them too contrasting. Okay. So his other color can be, let me see. Let's go with, I mean, we've got a light blue, so let's make the main color more of a blue. Let's give this guy a neck, because why not? Cool. So they're his base colors. Now if we add a logo on top, you want the logo to contrast. And at the moment, if we do blue as a logo, it might not look very strong. But if we did, I know red's a bit too cliche because it's like red, white, and blue. But you could easily do something like green. You know, and it contrasts, has a different sort of look. And let's do our chikorita. Let's use some black. Instead of going flat black, we'll just go really dark grey. So eyes will be the first one because that always looks cool as the mask, to go like the black mask. And the gloves would look cool in black. Don't know why, but full arm length gloves can look kind of hot sometimes, I reckon. Depending on who's wearing them. Alright. Oops. Okay. And now let's give her a red for the other color. Now, you don't always have to have a logo. I am not the authority on superhero colors and logos and whatnot. But I don't feel like it's required for a character to be a legitimate superhero to have a logo all the time. It could be something else. It could be a shape, a color. So, for example, with this chick, we've got this black area on her legs, they go in like that. So we could work with that, and let's say get our gold color, and have that. And instead of a logo, just that little bit of contrasting shape and color there adds enough of an iconic, memorizable pattern that people will know who she is if I make her a character and make her reappear and give her a personality and a good story and keep putting that there. That is instantly recognizable. It doesn't have to be a symbol. Wonder Woman's costume comes to mind. I can't think of any others on the top of my head, but you get the idea. You know, Hulk doesn't have a symbol, but I suppose the lesson, if there is a lesson for today's lesson video, it's the moral of the story, I would say, for superhero characters is making something iconic. A hero, in the end, is supposed to represent our hero, someone who, you know, rises above on behalf of the little guy. And to do that, it needs to be something that the little guy would remember, would look up to, would admire. And so when designing a hero, whether you're working with these cliches or not, because I mean, Wolverine when he was made, or Spider-Man when he was made, they weren't cliche superheroes. They became cliche. They became used because they became so popular. But those ideas are unique, but the imagery is memorable. So work with memorable imagery, work with memorable colors that stick in your head. Use shapes that are uniform. So, for instance, she's got a very angular costume, and work with those angles consistently. You know, this guy's got a bit more of a rounded feel. You know, so be consistent, be iconic, and have fun. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. Links are below to download the original files for reference. Remember, if you animate or draw something cool, be sure to share it on Newgrounds.com, the internet's best source for animations, games, art, and music. Until next time, see you later.